Okay, forgot to put on my headphones. I just did this thing from my job that I thought, hey, actually, this is how I think about my life. I want to share because it really changed the way that I look at things. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm not already. How do I do that? This this one. Ah, okay, cool. Okay, so thinking about our lives. There's this quote that I got or read it somewhere. Anyways, it says that hell is dying and meeting the person that you could have become. And it comes from this idea that when we die, we get to look at our life as if it was a movie. We get a review of our life. And in this review of our life, we see from a third perceptual position, from a third party, from a God point of view, all the forces that were at play with ourselves, all the ways that we harmed others or that we gave love to others, but we're not experiencing it from our eyes, we're experiencing it all just as it is, and we are seeing ourselves for the truth of what we were rather than what we thought we were or whatever fantasy that we were living in. And so this calculation comes from that same idea. It is that in life, we have a finite amount of time. In life, we have a finite number of hours in a day. And in this bracket of time, this amount of resource that we have, there are experiences within this block, and those experiences are composed of our thoughts, feelings, sensory input, sight, sound, all the things, right? But ultimately, even our sensory input is then interpreted into emotions, right? Like when we are moving through the world, we're seeing things, we're hearing things, we're smelling things, we're tasting things. And that taste is like data, like tasting of sourness, right? And then our brain has the experience of sourness, which then gives rise to thoughts, which then gives rise to emotions, which then gives rise to action. And this is sort of like the unfolding of then how we interact with the world. It all started with the experience coming in, and then our interpretation of the experience, and then our response to that interpretation, not to the experience itself, but to our interpretation of the experience. And our interpretation of the experience is then connected to all of our inner stuff, our inner matrix. And our inner matrix is made up of our uh, programming, like how our parents raised us, how our culture raised us, our life experiences, our pains, our sorrows, our joys, our dreams, our ideas, our ego, like all these things are part of the inner matrix. And then I'll stop there. So I made this thing for my work because right now we're talking about improving work share, how we share work between teams because half of our team is in India and half of the team is in Houston. And a lot is lost in translation just by virtue of the different locations and the different cultures and so on and so forth. And so to compel people to change their habits of working, I'm coming up with an argument. And my argument is based on based on quality of life, basically. What kind of work experience do we want to have? Because our work experience is a fourth, a third of our life experience. And if we are repeatedly having poor work experiences that are rooted in things that can be fixed, such as poor communication, then what a shame that is to then go through our whole 90 hours of work, which according to Google is the average amount of work, average amount of time a person works in their entire life. If we're spending a, a fourth, 2 hours of our 8-hour day in low vibes, feeling frustrated, annoyed, disgruntled, unhappy, not seen, not heard, that is 2 hours of our day, which is a fourth of our entire work experience if you are assuming that in those 90 hours you are working 8-hour days. That results in a total of 22,500 hours in your entire career of feeling low vibe. Low vibe is that frustration, anger, blah, 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 right? So it's our total work life amount of time. I'm averaging that 2 hours out of your day, you're feeling frustrated. And if that's the case, then 2 hours every day of those 90,000 total hours, that results in 22,500 hours of feeling frustrated out of the total 90,000 hours. And if you translate those hours into days, that's 937 and a half days of constant. That would be if you felt constantly low vibed, frustrated, angry, blah, 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 for 937 days. If you spend, this is really, yeah, if you spend a fourth of your day feeling those emotions, you actually spend 937 and a half days of your life feeling that way just from your work alone. That's from work alone, which then translates into 2.5 years of, that would be like nonstop feeling the way that you feel low at work. Hopefully I explained that right. It's kind of a mouthful, and this is my first run through of explaining this out loud to someone. But why am I sharing this? Because we can do the same thing, this kind of audit for our personal lives. Say like, okay, hey, I'm noticing I have a habit, or I'm noticing that often I'm feeling sad, fat, lonely, lovely. That's how we want to feel. Lonely, uh, disconnected, empty, frustrated, you name it, right? Like whatever emotion it is that you're feeling um, every day, let's say you're feeling that half your day. Let's see, how much time does the average person live? How many hours does the average person live? You can do your own audit for whatever it is that you want to. So this is saying, assuming 80 years, we get total days of 80 years times 365, which is a total of 29,200 days, which is a total hour amount of 700,800 hours. Right? Like our life is quantifiable. And as much as I hate that, it is. And so if we are letting time just meander by and slip away, we're not consciously using this time. Like this is all the meal we have. This is like our meal. These are all the calories we have for our whole life. This is all the oil that we have for our life. This is it. This is right here. It is finite. We don't get it back. It's the only thing that we can't get back, and it's time. So this is hours of life, right? And the kinds of opportunities that you can have in every one of these hours changes depending on where you are in life. Like you're not, as a 2-year-old, you don't have access to the range of experiences that you have as a 40-year-old, right? And so that's something to think about as well, of like, we'll get into that. Okay. So if you're feeling all these low vibes, yeah, these are all low vibes. If you're feeling all of this, let's say you're feeling that half of your day, right? You're feeling that half of the day, which is, I'm going to pull out the 8 hours because you're sleeping. So then you have 16 hours, you're feeling that half the day. So 8 hours a day, you're feeling that. Well, then again, just do the audit that we did previously. If I'm feeling that for 8 hours, that means that I am feeling, let's see, how many days did they say? They said 29,000. So 29,200 times 8. That means you're looking at 233,600 hours of feeling all that to the left, which then translates into how many days? 24. That's how many days, which then translates into how many years. So that would be 26.5 years of you constantly feeling like shiitake. Holy smokes. And how often do we let these emotions just sit with us and slip by us, and we will stay in this energetic state for days, weeks, months, years. And granted, we typically have good reason to feel these ways. Like your cat died, you lost your job, you put on 50 pounds. Like we have logical reasons to feel this way. And simultaneously, how many of us just sit in it and allow years, hours to go by, not realizing what is becoming of the quality of our lives. Do you get my point? That whenever you die and let's say we do get to look over our lives, whenever you die and you look at the audit of your review, you're going to see that you felt like this for that minute, for that long. You felt like all this for this. And that's not right or wrong. That's not good or bad. It just is what it is. My point is bringing this to awareness of, are you okay with that? Are you okay with feeling all this for this long? I know I'm not. And even as I'm saying this, I'm like, dang, Faith, you gotta get it together, because these become habits if you don't watch out. Next thing you know, when you die at 80 years old, because remember, this was living for 80 years, assuming 80 years, then that's what you get. So anyways, that's all that this video was about, was I wanted to bring this to everyone's attention. Same with your work experience. What is your work experience? What is the texture of your work experience? Texture of work experience. That looks like how much community, satisfaction, joy, fulfillment, reward, accomplishment, feeling seen, heard. Oh shoot, heard and valued. Right. The texture, the emotions, the experiences, the sensations. Right? How much of this do you feel in these 90 hours, 90,000 hours? And I would encourage all of you to do an audit on your life for every area of your life. You could even break it deeper into personal, like romantic, familial, friendship. And then once you really look at this of like, holy smokes, I'm spending half of my day feeling all these things, which means I'm actually feeling all these things for 26.5 consistent years of my life. Okay, I don't want to feel that way anymore. Hello, wake up call. Okay, and then the next question is, what am I going to do about it? What is this is better. Who do I choose to be instead? What is the opportunity available for me? Which the opportunity available is actually who you choose to be. Your choice is the opportunity. If you can see that. But, okay. Well, that is all. Let me see. I've never shared my screen before on Zoom. Okay. Stop video. No, I don't want to stop my video. Stop share. Oh, okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. And have a lovely day. Ciao. Okay, how do I end? Oh, the big red end button. Okay. Bye.